You keep saying, I've tried everything, but have you tried letting go? Have you ever broken so deeply that the only thing left to hold was nothing except him? You made plans, you calculated, you worked, you tried, you held the strings tighter, thinking that if you just did more, tried harder, pushed longer, things would fall into place. But they didn't. They fell apart. And the harder you tried to control life, the more you drowned in it. Ibn Arabi once wrote, "The one who clings to the reins of destiny is like a man trying to ride the wind. He thinks he's steering, but the wind laughs at his grip." Look at yourself. You've lost sleep, lost peace, maybe even lost people, all in the name of control. But here's the secret. Control is not power. Control is fear dressed up as responsibility. True power is in surrender. God says in the Quran, "And whoever puts their trust in Allah, then He is sufficient for them. وَمَنْ يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ." But you didn't trust. You planned around God, not with Him. You built castles on paper, forgetting the sky writes in wind. And now, you're tired. Not because life is hard, but because you keep trying to be God in a story where you were only ever meant to be a seeker. So let this break you. Let the illusion fall, because the moment you stop clinging is the moment He begins to carry you. They told you, be strong, keep going, push through, but no one told you the sacred truth. Sometimes collapse is divine. Sometimes, when your knees hit the ground, it's not weakness, it's alignment. You've spent your whole life running uphill against winds not meant to be fought, and now you're falling. But falling into what? Not despair, not darkness. You are falling into Al-Wakil, the one who carries without complaint, who takes over when you surrender. The Quran says, Allah is sufficient as disposer of affairs. وَكَفَى بِاللَّهِ وَكِيلًا. So why are you still afraid? Because letting go feels like dying. Because your ego whispers, if you don't hold everything together, everything will fall apart. But here's the truth. You're not holding it together. You never were. The air in your lungs, not yours. The beat in your chest, a borrowed rhythm. You're just the traveler, and He is the road. Ibn Arabi said, "True surrender is not passive. It is the most courageous act of the soul, to trust in what you cannot see because you feel it deeper than sight. And if you're still scared, still unsure, then remember this. The hands you fall into are not empty. They are the hands of the most gentle, the most wise, the most loving. You kept forcing doors to open, knocking with bleeding knuckles, begging life to cooperate, pushing people who never saw you. But the moment you let go, the silence wasn't empty. It was alive. It held something you'd never felt before. Space. The kind of space where God works. The Prophet ﷺ said, "If you relied on Allah as He truly deserves, He would provide for you as He provides for the birds. They leave with empty stomachs and return full." No GPS, no guarantees, just wings and trust. You began to realize the job that didn't call you back, the relationship that fell apart, the dream that cracked. They weren't rejections, they were redirections. Your failures weren't failures, they were filters, removing what was never written for you so what was written could finally arrive. But that only happens when you stop playing God and start playing your part. Ibn Arabi said, "The servant who knows his station no longer fights with fate. He follows it like a lover follows the scent of his beloved." And suddenly, life begins to respond. Not because it became easier, but because you stopped resisting the rhythm of the one who composed it. And this is what it means to walk with trust. Not waiting for evidence, but moving with certainty that even your pain is part of the map. You thought trusting God meant doing nothing, waiting in silence, letting go like a feather in the wind. But real trust, tawakkul, is not passive surrender. It's active intimacy. It's the soldier who sharpens his sword but knows victory is from heaven. It's Mariam, alone and trembling, pushing against the palm tree in labor, and God saying, "Shake the tree." Wahuzzi ilayki bijidhr nakhla. Why ask her to shake a tree when she was already broken? Because trust does not mean you stop moving. It means you move knowing you're not alone. It's not, "I'll sit and wait for things to fix." It's, "I'll walk even through the fire because I'm not walking alone." The Prophet tied his camel, then said, "Trust in Allah." Ibn Arabi said, "True tawakkul is not the death of action, but the death of anxiety within action." And when this hits you, really hits you, you move differently. You stop begging people to see you. You stop chasing things that run. You stop fearing loss because you know what is yours by decree, no one can take, and what is not yours, no force can keep. This is not passivity. This is alignment. This is moving with the wind of Al-Hakim, carried by the wings of Al-Rahman. At first, you trusted because you had no choice. Life broke you. You clung to God like a man clings to driftwood in a storm. But slowly, you stopped trusting out of desperation and started trusting out of delight. You realized that life is too vast, too alive, too beautifully chaotic to be managed by human hands. And you smiled, because the moment you let go, life began to unfold like a love letter written just for you. The Quran says, "Say, nothing will ever happen to us except what Allah has written for us. He is our protector. قُلْ لَنْ يُصِيبَنَا إِلَّا مَا كَتَبَ اللَّهُ لَنَا هُوَ مَوْلَانَا." You began to enjoy the unknown. You stopped fearing delays. You even learned to love the days when plans fell apart, because that's when God rearranged something better. You moved through life like a traveler who knows every wrong turn is part of the right road. You found meaning in waiting, peace in uncertainty, and beauty in being surprised by his plan. Ibn Arabi wrote, "The one who trusts does not rush. He watches the unfolding of fate like a lover watches the opening of a rose." And this is the shift, from anxiety to awe, from gripping to grace, to know that even in pain, even in loss, you are never abandoned. Because he is not just your refuge in storms, he is the sky above all storms, and trusting him has become your joy. Look at your hands. What are you still gripping? What fear? What illusion of control? What weight that was never yours to carry? This is the final test of trust, not in theory, but in action. Because now you know, God doesn't need your plan, he needs your permission. Permission to work through you. Permission to lead you to places your mind would never dare imagine. But as long as you keep clutching the what-ifs, as long as you delay the surrender, you remain stuck in a life that was never meant to fit. God doesn't move when you say, "I'm ready." He moves when you prove you're ready, by letting go. Ibn Arabi wrote, "The delay is not from him. It is your grip that blocks the gift." So let me ask you, what if the very thing you fear losing is the one thing that's stopping your life from truly beginning? What if the door you've been begging God to open has always been open, but your hands were too full to turn the knob? The Quran says, "And whoever trusts in Allah, he will make a way out for him and will provide for him from where he never expected." وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَل لَهُ مَخْرَجًا وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ. So I'm not asking if you believe in God. I'm asking, do you believe him enough to finally let go? Because until you do, the story doesn't start. If this reached you in a moment of quiet collapse, then maybe it wasn't just a video. Maybe it was a sign. Don't scroll past it like you scroll past your own soul. Subscribe to Heart's Whisper, not for content, but for reminders you forgot you were starving for. And before you go, answer this one question in the comments. What are you still holding on to that you know deep down God has already asked you to let go?